discussion today is on child support and maintenance for the children of divorce. Even by the sound of that, I know it is wrong, and Gary and I will share why we can back that up. Children do sometimes benefit by receiving money from non-custodial parents, but there is so much that needs to be said about what is wrong, as well as about the aspects of money in exchange for parenting, right? You should all know that what we are about to say is true, and that the divorce laws within the legal system will fail you or lie to you to protect the operators within that system of laws. And my expert is Gary Jacobs, President for Americans for Legal Reform, and of course, Major League Family Law Reformer. Welcome to our nightmarish condition in child support, Gary. So the maintenance and the child support issues are now combining. There's a new law in maintenance now where they have another calculation. So there's a calculation for child support, and that's on gross income in New York, whereas in most other states it's not, but we still have to battle that issue. So they're occupying so much of our money. Now they want all couples to have a maintenance formula included. So let's say, and by the way, you can deviate from that, but now they force you to write a letter of deviation to go back to a standard that doesn't over-encumber the non-custodial payer. Right. What world are they living in with their income levels dropping and more people still going to prison, which is an outrage, right? What's your feeling about some of that?
Well, a formula is tough because here on Long Island, let's take somebody who makes $100,000 a year. Well, you look at it and you go, $100,000 a year, that's a good living. I mean, you know, somebody's doing pretty well. Now they get divorced, they have 3 kids. So now they're paying 27% of their gross income.
But 2 kids is 25%.
For 3 kids.
Oh, 3 kids, 29.
29, okay. So now they're paying 29% of their gross income. So now, let's just say $30,000. So now they're down to $70,000 of their gross income. Right. Now they got their taxes taken out.
And they get taxes off 100.
Now they're down to 50, right, off the gross. So now they're down to $50,000. That doesn't include extracurricular activities, doesn't include insurance,
investments for themselves and IRAs.
Things. Let's say the kid plays baseball. They get hurt. There's insurance copays, another $10,000 a year. Now they're down to $40,000. Now let's start talking about maintenance.
Right.
Their ex didn't work. They got maintenance on top of it.
Right.
Now they're down conservatively $10,000. Now they're down to $30,000.
So you make $100,000.
They're left.
You're left with $30,000.
This is not an unreasonable
number.
Uncommon.
Not unreasonable at all.
So now they're left with $30,000. Now they have to move out of the marital home. Where the hell are they going to go?
Yeah.
They're left with $30,000 a year net, right?
We keep $3,000
a month. Rent is $1,500 a month because a lot of people complain to me they get
Which
divorced.
Is $17,000 of his $30,000 that's left.
That's
just to have a place to stay.
They move out of the house.
Yeah.
Their ex is living in the beautiful house that they were in, and the judge will say, "Well, you can rent an apartment in somebody's basement for $1,000 a month. Do you think your 3 kids are going to want to go sit in a freaking basement?"
Yeah, I'm not going over there, Dad.
Right. So then they say, "Well, I want to get a good place." So now they spend $15,000. They have no money. They're freaking broke. They're literally on poverty.
We want, because we know the subject very well, the public to know that these are very real things we're saying, and this is very common. And we back ourselves up here. So if there's any questions you have, please feel free to call us at the numbers on the website at the end of the program on the credits, because it's time that we all wake up to the amount of encumbrances the government and the agencies, child support enforcement, and the laws that are being passed right now are overtaking the natural reality of parenting. Yeah. It's supposed to be an exchange, right?
They're not that help. They're there to create
money for themselves.
Dads. And let me give you a perfect example. Somebody goes to court, to family court. They file a petition for an increase. Let's just say the mother goes and says, "I need an increase."
Upward modification.
They go to court. The case drags on for 6 months to a year. They finally get the upward modification. It gets granted $1,000 more a month. Automatically, it's retroactive from the day they filed. So now the father, the day that decision comes in, is $12,000 in arrears.
And if he fights it, it's going to cost him to fight it.
Right. But let's say, I'll take it, $12,000 in arrears. Well, the guy doesn't have the $12,000. Now it's statutory interest of 18%. Who the hell gets 18%?
Yeah,
so
really.
It goes up at 18%. Then they find themselves, they can't pay it. So they find themselves back in court again for a contempt hearing. Many times they find themselves in jail, but more commonly, the first thing they do is their driver's license is suspended, their passports revoked, their professional license is taken away, their taxes are garnished, and in certain fields, people can't work when they have all these liens against them, because many companies run credit reports. And if you have all these liens against you, you'll lose your job.
This is common sense again, folks.
And I'll give you more common sense.
This is what happens.
Then you go to court and you say, well, judge, you just did this to me. My ex, through you, your surrogate, did this to me. You made me lose my job. I have no money. And the judge says, no, it's your fault that you lost your job.
Yeah.
So now you're punished again.
Yeah.
And then your life is over. And you'll never, ever get out of it. And I have people who tell me all the time, I owe $100,000, $200,000. Dr. Carlos Rivera, I think he's up to $500,000. He's, what's the difference, Gary, if I owe $500 or $5 million? I can't pay it, and I can never get out of this hole that they put me in.
This is a shakedown, and anytime they can acquire money from you, they'll do it. And in Dr. Carlos's situation, he okayed, which signature is considered a contract, because he was so willing to support his kids. He gave them a number beyond his ability to pay, not knowing that he needed to survive on his own. He was so willing to support the kids. And that he got trapped into that. He got shook down. He went to jail, and that's exactly what happens to a lot of people.
Nobody would believe it. If you would have told me 10 years ago, oh, they'll go to jail, I would say, good, put them in jail. They're a deadbeat dad. Dads should support their kids. Put them in jail. These aren't deadbeat dads. These are people who are trying to. How many people lose their job, and then they go to court, and the judge says, well, find another job and come back in 6 months.
Yeah, and they don't reduce it. There's no such thing as
reduce
the downward modifications are rare.
So
why?
hard.
It's hard for me to say why. I'm not even sure why.
Okay, well, I mean, you brought it down. I'm not an attorney. My disclaimer, don't sue me, Bar Association. You're a piece of crap, and I don't want anything to do with the lawyers, okay? Don't sue me. My disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, President of Americans for Legal
But this is what I see.
But here is what I see. If you want to go for a downward modification, the law says that you have to try to live up to your obligation, and you have to prove that you tried to
live up to the standard that they were used to.
Standard. So if you just go into court and say, Judge, I lost my job, because a lot of people tell me, well, I'm not worried because they say contempt is willful, and if I'm not willful, I have no money. But that's not what it is. You have to prove that you tried to make the money. And I tell people, go out, apply for other jobs, keep a record of it. Try to go out outside of your field, but do whatever you can. And a lot of times you will win if you do that, but a lot of times you're in the hole at that. But if you want any chance of winning in the appellate division, you have to prove that you tried to. And just going into court and saying, Judge, I tried, is not good enough.
It's not totally unrealistic to take the place of trying to equal a standard that existed, but when it superiorizes, it makes it above and beyond the needs of the child. That's when I object.
I say screw the needs, because you know what? Go into court and tell me the child's not eating, that's a different story.
Right.
Tell me the child isn't getting clothing, is not getting shoes. There's nonsense about they need the standard of living. Study after study have shown that money doesn't equal happiness. How many rich people do we know that they're miserable families, they're divorced, their kids are doing drugs, they're doing heroin. Suicide
rate is higher for people with money, by the way.
The kids aren't successful because the parents are rich. And how many kids do we know who grew up through adversity and became stronger and wonderful human beings? And money does not mean happiness.
One of the bases for developing the Child Support Standards Act is in some language I'm going to read here to you. And think about the cultural conditions of what it's like to be a feminist. Alimony, this is the alimony situation. Alimony was based on the women staying at home. This is how it was. It is supplemental income to keep them believing that they need to go out and make their way in the world. And it is a conflict of interest to females. If you think about it, how can you take money from somewhere and then want to go out and work? If you're getting the money, why would you go out and work? So
it's the argument, the welfare system, right?
Yeah. It's very, very, very similar. So we can't ask the world to maintain a standard when we don't even know what that standard is. This is America. We're a capitalist society. We don't have a standard. You do what you can. You compete for what you can get. Where's the marker that says, oh, we have to reach this marker?
Right. And let's be fair. If a mother, and it could be a father too, but if a mother stays home and gives up her career and raises somebody's children, nobody's saying that they shouldn't be helped to get back on their feet.
Right.
I don't think anybody, if the ability is there. But what happens in the courts, they don't think about the ability. They don't look at the reality. They go, well, look, of course the woman stayed home with the kids, and of course we would want her to now have to go out and be successful. But if the man doesn't, we had a woman who came to you and I, Chris, and she says, I need more money. I need more help going back to court. I hear all my friends getting $1,000 a week, and my husband is only giving me $200 a week. And I said to the woman, but okay, you were married for 8 years. What happened when you were married? He was always a bum. He always lost his job. He never made a good living. But now,
what'd you expect?
Now because you're divorced, you think he should come up? Where is he going to get it?
Well, that's just an unrealistic expectation.
But guess what? She gets to court, and the judge says, absolutely. Well, now what happens? The guy loses his license. He's a deadbeat. He's going to probably go to jail. But it's stupid. It's not real. It's not reality. People do lose it. In married life, people lose their job.
Sure. It's also equally, when you think about the alimony side, unrealistic to place a lifetime alimony, which people were getting. They pretty much reduced that now to
half the length of the marriage, I think, is common.
17 years, I'm sorry, is considered a vintage marriage. It used to be 20, now it's 17. Pretty soon it'll be 14 for all we know. Right. It's always going to go down. It's always going to be more money. It's always going to be the acquisition of funds that are available. And that's how the system, it's a court of equity. That's how it works. It wants to equal things out. It wants to take your money and pay for the legislation that didn't work.
But let me ask you, Chris, how lucky is that parent, man or mother or father, who got to stay home with their child while the other person went out and
Wish I had that job.
And missed all the opportunities of
It's
growing.
a hard job. Motherhood should never be taken lightly.
No doubt, but how lucky are they that they were
Sure.
And then when you get to court, listen, in a normal situation, somebody would say, man, Chris, you're the luckiest man in the world. Your wife made all this money, and you were able to stay home with your child and raise them. And then you go to court. What a bastard. You were made to stay home with those kids. I suffered with those kids, and now I should be rewarded the rest of my life.
And most of the judges were men, and they had that, what do they call it, a biased perception? They had a biased perception that women needed to be taken care of, and that there was a good reason for them to be at home with the kids. It's a bitch job, and you left him, and you cheated on him, whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter. 10 years,
But what happened to equal rights? Equal rights.
That's
it's an
what
equal rights issue.
That's what I was trying to say about the
what?
alimony.
I'm insulted by a woman should be insulted by them saying, well, I need to be taken care of the rest of my life. That woman should be insulted.
That's conflict of interest I was talking about
before.
She
should be embarrassed to say it.
Well, the system makes money for itself is clear in many of the programs we do on child support and on maintenance. It's a way to keep money, keep it going, keep us fighting too.
Keep you fighting, keep you in court.
That's a savage way to think about how they want the world to go. But the way you can avoid it is by
again, I always say shared custody, and that doesn't mean you don't pay child support.
Right.
If one parent makes 100, another parent makes 50, and you're sharing, there can be money flowing.
Give us the Scandinavian example.
Well,
okay.
And I agree with this in many ways, is that it costs so much to feed a child. It costs so much upstate, so much on Long Island to feed the child.
It's not going to be that different from place to place.
It's not going to be that different. It costs whatever. It's not a huge number because look, if you're on welfare, they only give you a couple $100 a month, and that's good enough. Studies have shown. They use the argument that, well, if you have a house and you have a 3-bedroom house and then you divide it by the kids, it's nonsense because studies have shown that if you did not have kids, your housing cost would be almost exactly the same. Because when your kids move to college, when they get married, move out, the housing stays the same. So the housing is a fake issue. Are you still going to have a car? Doesn't go up because you have 1 kid, 2 kids, 3
A little bit
kids.
of cost of living, maybe.
A little bit. It's so negligible.
Yeah, right.
Your insurance doesn't go up. Right, Your electricity barely goes up. When you're a teenager, the food goes up. You're not going to argue that. But these are still. Listen, who needs on Long Island? It's very common for somebody to get a child support order of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. Who spends $4,000 a month raising their kids? That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, of course.
Now, if the person's making $1 million a year, okay, these are regular people though who are barely getting by on Long Island or are being forced to pay $3,000 a month every day. It happens every day.
Sure. If you reduce the number a little bit to what the economic average is for the country, the nation, I think, is somewhere around 50,000, somewhere in at 48.
Again, because I say forget about how much the person makes. I don't care what the person makes. I want you to go. If you want to go to. First of all, I believe in shared custody. You want to go to court and battle it out. Guess what? If you win custody, you're going to get $300, let's say $100 a week for a kid to cover their food. take away the financial incentive.
Right.
Because what would happen is now somebody would say, you know what, let's share because I want to share that financial burden. I'm only going to get 100. I'm like, kids are
That's
a profit
the reason why we hear what we say. I
They're
want
money
that bastard
bags.
to pay more money. He's not giving me enough child support, because there's this belief system of the entitlement aspect to a child support
You and I know, what do we call the
obligation.
kids? We call them little money bags. That's all they are. They're money bags. They're used as pawns in a divorce. And it's about my kids, the best interest. You know what? You want to take away the kid from the other parent? You should lose the kid, because that's not in their best interest.
That's right. That's immediate alienation.
Exactly. You know.
There's one other thing we should think about, or we should pass along information-wise. Don't fill out an interrogatory like as if you're trying to be proud of what you've done. I hate to say this, but I mean, what else can you say? You fill out your forms in your income if you work for somebody that you're getting the same pay, but independent contractors have to consider that this amount of money during a fluctuating income can immediately put you into the deprived state of child support and having them take the money from you.
Okay, well, here's a piece of advice. Again, I'm not a lawyer. Don't sue me. Well, you can sue me because the courts took away all my money, so it's okay. But don't sue. I'm not a lawyer. But, you know, if you're doing a stipulation, which mostly the courts try to trick you into doing a stipulation, always put a proviso in there. This is based on my current income. I consent that if my income drops, that my percentage will drop based on the income. Put that in the stipulation.
You consent? Is that the right word?
That the other party consents. So let's say if I'm making $100,000,
the other party consents.
that you're putting in the paper that automatically this is based on my current salary.
I just did that in a mediation and it worked.
Of X.
But we're in a mediation, we're outside of court, but we know that this guy's employment is seasonal. So we can't have a fixed income for child support at those 3 months where it's not going to be at that level. So we make up for it, and he's going to make up for it as the year goes along. So the amount on an annual basis doesn't really change.
But
decent way to do it.
Yeah, but I'm saying, you know, a lot of people think, oh, good, I got a good job. Listen, if your kid's 5, 6 years old, you may be in court for 15 more years, 22 years old, and most of the time on Long Island, it's 21 until they graduate a 4-year college in most cases. 20, you know, what's going to happen in 15 years? 15 years ago, who knows? You know, you don't know where you're going to be. So I tell people, put in the agreement, if you're doing a stipulation, that if my income drops, it automatically drops to the level of my new job. Listen, doesn't mean they're not going to go to court and get it changed, but at least you have something that says you anticipated this, because that battle is very, very tough when you lose your job.
You don't want to hear this, but this is true. Right now they're discussing in the state level that a certain number of years beyond college are now going to be possible to select and pay out for. I know. Because the rationale for it is the kids don't have the ability to get a job and move out of the house. They can't afford. So what are they going to move? They're going to move back home. Right. That's going to be child support at age 26.
Wow. But you know what?
Can you picture that? 25, 26 years old?
From what I've seen from my experience, it's instinctual. It's innate for a parent to want to care for their child.
Right.
I could tell you
I would take my kid back home at 25 too. That's not the point.
I could tell you that.
But to create a law for it? I mean,
almost never have I seen a parent who has the ability to take care of their child and is seeing their child, because I believe if you're being kept from your child support should stop right there. If you're being kept for your child, it should be stopped.
Right.
No more child support.
That's right. Access.
And I personally tell people, my opinion, don't pay it. Fight it in court. Do not pay if you're not seeing their kid.
And a lot of judges will support that, by the way.
Some you will, but at least you have some fight. Go in there and say, look,
you have a good
you're
position at least
selectively
anyway.
enforcing my agreement. You can't enforce the money part and not enforce the parenting part.
Selective enforcement.
Selective enforcement, and then what's happening? And I use in federal court that you're being denied equal protection under the law. Okay, but that's just a little, again, non-legal advice from me.
It doesn't work in civil court because that's a federal
but you have to bring
constitutional.
Our courts on Long Island are a joke. They're led in Suffolk County by Judge Hinrichs, who's corrupt. I'll say it to the camera. Judge Hinrichs is corrupt. There's no disclaimer on that. If Judge Hinrichs wants to sue me, have me arrested, get an order of protection, I dare you, Judge Hinrichs, go do it, because he's corrupt. This is who's leading our courts. Judge Hinrichs, the chief judge, leading our courts. You had Judge Marion McNulty, a biased, nasty woman who was allowed to stay on the bench. Now you have Judge Fields. I believe she has mental illness.
The way you can avoid this is stay out.
Stay out. And let me tell you, I've had people call me because we've done shows on Aletha Fields, and they say, well, this is great. I'm a woman. I got Aletha Fields. Guess what? If you're the woman she hates, you're screwed too.
Yeah. It's hysterical what we have to go through. But what we can do in the meantime is mediate rather than litigate. We can advance as much of an effort as we can within reason of our ability to battle a joint custody position. Although it's hard to get in New York.
But it's hard to get, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Don't let, a lot of people use the thing, it's not me, it's the judge.
A lot of it does cost money, though.
That's BS. It's the judge. It's you.
A lot of it costs money.
You give yourself to the judge.
The lawyers sometimes exacerbate the process.
Of course they do, but that's up to you to hire the lawyer too. Oh, the lawyers say, don't talk to your spouse. There's no reason you can't pick. It's not illegal. Pick up the phone.
I don't know how many people really can make a good decision
and say,
about
Mr.
selecting
and Mrs.
a lawyer.
Whatever, let's get out of this damn courtroom. Let's go see a mediator and let's share custody.
Right, I had somebody come to me and said that.
And forget about this guaranteed child support guidelines. Let's make it where we can both live and go on with our lives. Because you know what? People can be happy when they're divorced and they're working with their spouse. They can get time to go outside. They can get time to date other people. They can, if they have a working relationship with their spouse, their finances will be better. I mean, people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in court that could have been paid for their kids' college. More common than not. I think most people will tell me that in a contested divorce, between the two parties, the minimum you'll spend is $100,000. I wish I spent $100. It was way more.
You know what Title 4D is?
Well, that's the incentive to the government to get money for every
Incentivizes
dollar they
them to collect and puts back. The public should know. The public
Well,
should
people
know.
say, why do they care? The judge is neutral. The judge is not neutral. They get incentive by the state for every dollar they collect in child support. I believe it's 4, don't quote me on it, but it's a high number. But what's worse about the situation is for every dollar that they collect of delinquent funds, it's about $6 for every dollar they collect.
Is it really that much?
So
Wow.
what they do is they create the funds to be delinquent by
matching dollars is all they have here.
by
in my
putting
notes.
somebody in arrears. Now, this law is written so crazy that I've spoken to many legislators. You know, I've been up to Albany many times, met with senators and assemblymen, and
I went for 20 straight years.
they don't even know what Title 4D
Straight.
is. And then I'll tell them, look it up. And then I'll call them back, and they'll go, well, I found it, but it's hidden, it's convoluted. I didn't even know it existed.
Thank you very much.
It's written like that.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. So, advice. We only got 2 minutes to go here.
Well, advice is only asked if you're getting divorced, share custody. If one person needs the money,
because you won't get trapped in this never-ending battle if you share the custody.
If one person needs the money, work with them. Listen, you know what's fair. Again, most people want their children to live. And
most couples should know, can make this fairness decision on their own.
And
they don't really need to be told by...
And don't look at the court system and say, well, if I went to court, I would get X, Y, Z.
Right.
Because I've had many people say, well,
Yep, I still hear that.
I'll mediate, but guess what? I know what I'm entitled to.
Right.
Yeah, you're entitled to it, except you're one of the 5 or 10% of the women who loses their custody and has to pay the child support.
Yeah.
You'll wish you went to that mediator.
Sure.
There's no turning back once you're in court.
In mediation,
it's very hard to go back.
In mediation, the couple decides what they can handle and how they can handle it, and we do stick to the guidelines.
Don't go to court and say, I'm going to try it in court and see how I do, and if I don't do well, I'll go to mediation, because once the cat's out of the bag, there's usually no turning back.
Gary, thank you very much. We definitely beat the crap out of this.
It's a tough subject.
That's right. But societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. And at FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own. I know you can't get this information on your own. You'll have to call us to find out, or you can call Gary if you want.
Chris.
His number. Of course, we always invite all opposing views. My name is Chris DiMaggio. Thank you for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.